Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarva Vide Namaha. Dharma Dharma Vinirmuktam Bhuta Bhavyat Krita Kritat Samatmanam Param Vidyat Vimuktam Sarva Bandhanaihi. Sam Atmanam Param Vidyat. Vidyat, one should know some Atmanam and so own self as Param, as limitless. In what sense? Param that transcends everything. Sarvabandhanehi vimuktam, already vimuktam, totally free, visheshana muktam, meaning that it was never bound, not subject to bondage again. Sarvabandhanehi, from all bondages, from all sense of limitations, from all sense of compulsions, pressures, impulses. So these are the things that as though bind us. Anything that creates in me a sense of helplessness, dependence, that's called bondage. Vimuktam sarvabandhanaihi. So dharma and adharma, both of them can create in me. Dharma creates in me a sense that I must do that. Adharma creates in me a fear that I should avoid it. Bhuta, bhavya, the past also creates a bondage in terms of what is not resolved. The past life, what is not resolved, which has left unresolved, undigested impressions in terms of hurt, guilt, and all accumulated impressions. Bhavya, the future, also creates in me a bondage in form of anxieties, worries. Present also creates in me ragadveshas. Krita, krutat, what is done, what is not done. Krita, effect, akruta, cause. Effect, what I encounter. Cause, what has created that. As long as these things are thought to be real, other than myself, So anything, good, bad or indifferent, anything that is thought of other than myself is likely to create some kind of a concern. So therefore, all possible examples of bondage are given here. Vimuktam vidyat, you recognize yourself as vimuktam, ever free from all these factors that cause a sense of bondage. Akurvan sarvakrit shuddha tishthan atyeti dhavatah maya sarvashaktitvat ajastan bahudha matah. So there are many shrutis, viruddha dharmavadinihi shrutihi. There are shruti statements, viruddha dharmavadini, which seem to state the viruddha dharma, the contradictory nature of Atma. Same breath, Atma is described as Akurvan and then Sarvakrit. Akurvan not doing anything, Sarvakrit doing everything. So these apparent contradictions are from different standpoints. Sarvakrit, he is the doer of everything, creator of everything. When Paramatma or Brahman is looked at from the standpoint of what is all happening, we see that universe is created, universe constantly activity is going on, so there must be a conscious entity who is responsible for the creation, for all activities, because action cannot be performed by something that is unconscious. So only conscious entity is Brahman, Ishvara, Paramatma. Therefore he alone does everything. So from the standpoint of what is happening, it looks like he is the one that is Sarvakrit doing everything. From his standpoint, look at his nature, which is a simple consciousness, simple being. There is no creation, no disturbance, no activity at all. Any activity shows a restlessness, shows the dissatisfaction with the present, shows the need to become something. That's what an activity is about. But here, when there is a nature of total satisfaction, there cannot be any activity. Therefore, no action can be explained. When we take into account the nature of Brahman, nature of reality, at the same time you see activities everywhere also. All these contradictory things are possible. The same locus, only when one of them is right and another is wrong. Meaning that one is Satyam, Akurvan, that Paramatma does not do anything, is a nature. Sarvakrit, but appears to be doing everything. One is the attribute of the Vesha, the costume Upadhi. Other is the essential nature of the self or Atma. Tishthan atyeti dhavatah. Tishthan while standing, remaining motionless, dhavatah atyeti, it overtakes all those that are running. Again, running happens at the level of the vyavhara, creation, appearance, and tishthan, motionlessness. How motionless can appear as possessed all motions. So this is what we call mind-boggling. an entity can appear to be truly contrary to what its true nature is. What is motionless appears to be possessed of all the motions. What is actionless appears to be performing all the actions. Ajassan bahudha matah. Paramatma is birthless by nature, then how can you explain the birth? He alone causes birth, he alone is born. The birthless is born variously, bahudha matah. We will see the birth things constantly being born. And birth also is possible only for a conscious entity. The only conscious entity is Brahman, is Parama, is a self. So you say that he alone is born, but from his standpoint, he is birthless. So birthlessness is reality, birth is appearance. Motionlessness is reality, motion is appearance. Birthlessness is reality, motionless is reality, actionlessness is reality. This is what throws everybody off. Because what we see is action. So you are in search of the root of this action. And it is natural to assume that these actions originate from something that is active. The maniness originates from something that is many. The birth originates from something that is having birth. So this is where the most amazing aspect is that birth is of that which is the birthless alone is born. The motionless alone is moving. The actionless alone is acting. Naturally, these two contradictory nature or aspects cannot coexist. Therefore, one is Satyam, other is Mithya. That's how Satya and Mithya, these terms came. And therefore, the explanation of Maya, Sarva Shaktitva, that's an explanation. Shakti is required, the movement is real. But anyway, whatever is the nature of movement is the nature of the Shakti. Now continuing, Akriyasyapi Kriyatvopacharam Muktam. Akriyasyapi Kriyatvopacharam. We say that Akriya, the actionlessness is real and the actions are apparent. So upachara, as though acting. The birthless is as though undergoing birth. The actionless is as though performing all the actions. The motionless is as though showing all the movements. As though, to show the mithyatvam or appearance. Also upacharam. Upacharam is in a secondary sense, figurative sense. That was said in the earlier verses. Dushtantena prapanchayati. How can these two contradictory nature exist simultaneously? Dushtantena prapanchayati. The teacher tries to explain that with Drishtanta illustration in the next verse. Rajavat sakshi matratvat Sannidhyad brahmako yatha Brahmayad jagadatmaham Nishkriyo karako dvaya. Rajavat sakshi matratvat. Rajavat like a king. Sakshi matritvad. The king is just there. Meaning that it's well known that in the presence of king things happen. His attendants automatically do in presence of king. Meaning that king does not have to command or instruct or do anything, it just has to be. An ideal situation when the king's attendants know exactly what he wants, and therefore they do it without his even a gesture. Just by his presence they do what is required. An ideal king, an ideal attendants. But that is a possibility. How the attendants perform various activities merely in presence of king. What is required is presence of the king. Sakshitvat. Because Sakshi, king is simply watching. In fact, Sakshi is also involves an action of watching. King just is. So, only in the sannidhi of the king, activities take place on the part of the attendants. Or sannidhyad also you can say, Rajavat. Sannidhi, just the presence. Brahmako yatha, in case of Raja, Sakshi, Brahmaka means a magnet. Brahmako yatha is called lodestone or magnet. Brahmayan, how a magnet in its very presence makes the iron filings turn around or move about. For that no effort, no sankalpa, nothing is involved in part of the magnet, just being is involved. In case of king, just being is involved and activities take place. In case of magnet, just being is involved and the motions take place. So these are the examples of how the motion takes place in the presence of motionless. And the movement takes place again of that which does not move. Brahman, Jagat, the entire universe also, Brahman, Sarvabhutani, Yantra, Rudhani, Maya. The whole universe thus is set into motion and turning around. Interesting is, all bodies are all spherical bodies, and that is how, because everything is moving, turning around, all bodies are spherical bodies, Whether it's sun or the moon or earth or whatever they are, all of them are spherical bodies, running around, running, moving, turning, rotating. Whole universe is set into motion. Everything is rotating. You take an atom or subatomic particles, everywhere, most constant motion is going on. In presence of consciousness, which is motionless. So all that is required is presence. Maya adhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. He kaunteya, simply by my presence, by my conscious presence. The Maya automatically, so all potential of movement and creation and birth is all in Maya. So Maya, Sarva Shaktitvat, all Shakti, all movement, everything is Maya in presence of the consciousness. It just happens. Aham Atma, Nishkriya, Akaraka, Advaya. Was said earlier, Nishkriya, actionless, Akaraka, doesn't cause any activity. Advaya, non-dual. Yasmadevam Atma Swatah Nitya Shuddhattvadi Svabhavah. In this manner, just because Atma is Swabhava, of the nature of Nitya Shuddhatvadi, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta, that's the nature of Atma, the self. Meaning that if you investigate what is a reality, it all will resolve in Nitya Shuddha, something that is pure. Buddha, that is conscious. Mukta, that is free. That's the beauty of the whole thing. The beauty of the whole creation of life is that the basis or the very source or the very truth is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta. Nobody can suspect. Wherever we see all impurities, we see all conflicts, we see divisions. This is what we see. Nobody can suspect that all the divisions ultimately resolve into divisionless. All impurities resolve into that is ever pure. So that is why the understanding of Mithyatvam is so important. What appears, an experience is an appearance. What is Mithya? That which appears, which has no reality whatever. So impurity has no reality whatever. The divisions, manyness has no reality whatever. Meaning that anything that causes problem in our life, anything that is a potential source of sorrow or grief has no real existence at all. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate saraha. That's what Lord Krishna says to Arjuna. That asataha bhava na vidyate. All these things that you think are there, the universe is there, Bhishma Drona is there, our relatives are there, Swajanas are there, and grief is there. They don't exist. And what is can never not exist? This may sound very cruel or devoid of any sensitivity, insensitive. It may sound like that, which is so. It's only when you transcend all these sensitivity and go beyond that. It's not an insensitive thing, something that also transcends sensitivity. Shastranayabhyam avagataha. So various statements of the Shruti were quoted Shastra. And reason also given Rajavat, Brahmakaha. So Yukti was also given, Nyaya means reasoning was also given. Shastra Nyayabhyam Avagataha Atma, the self or Brahman or truth or Jagadatma is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta. This is what we find revealed by scriptures as well as what we arrive at by reasoning. All makes sense. What is meant by Nyaya or reasoning is it makes sense. It makes sense. It is possible that all actions emerge from the one that does not act. Like a king, all movements result from someone that does something that does not move, like a magnet. So by this Nyaya reasoning we explain how these contradictory things are possible. And therefore, what appears contradictory is possible. So reasoning gives a possibility. So we say, that makes sense. Otherwise contradiction doesn't make sense to us. And the life is full of these paradoxes. Paradoxes, contradiction, that's what the science, physics discovers. All paradoxes. They don't make sense. Therefore, these illustrations are given here to help us understand it is possible, it can be. Once then my mind stops resistance, as long as my mind thinks I can't accept it, They say that, but I have never seen it, never experienced it. Therefore, experience is presented. You look, this is what you see, it's possible. Therefore, the Nyaya, the reasoning, makes possible in our own mind to understand what the Shruti says. Thus, when the mind is completely resolved like this from Shruti and Yukti, Tasmatam Tatheva Janiyat, one should then make it the object of one's experience. So, experience it, realize it, see it. So, know yourself in this manner, Tatheva. Therefore, may you know yourself as actionless, as motionless, as unaffected by cause and effect, past, present and future, dharma, adharma. Na anyatha, not as you know yourself now, anyatha. Not contrary to what this says, that you are nitya, shuddha, buddha, mukta, actionless, unborn. Not that I am born and I am doing things, don't know, meaning that your knowledge should not be of that nature, which is what it is right now. So this is upasamhara of these contradictory things here. So next verse is Nirgunam Nishkriyam Nityam Nirdvandvam Yanniramayam Shuddham Buddham Tatha Muktam Tad Brahmasmi Dhārayed. Tad Brahmasmi Dhārayed. So this is how Dhārayed means this is what one should recognize. Manyeta Dhārayeta. May one see this fact. Avadharanam, ascertainment. So may you come to this nishchaya, ascertainment. That tad brahmahamasmi, that Brahman I am. Not what I take myself to be. A small, little, helpless creature, that's not what I am. So thus these verses give us the pointers or way of contemplating upon the self. See this fact about yourself. Now that you understood what the Shruti says, Scripture says, and also it makes sense that is given by Drishtanta reasoning. Therefore, how should you not look at yourself? Habitually, I look at myself as a limited being. Says tathaiva janiyat na anyathayati. Janiyat, may one know, not in the manner that one knows now. Tathaiva, as the Upanishad says, as Shruti says, as the reasoning also verifies. That tad brahmahamasmi dhāret, that Brahman I am. What's the name of Brahman? Brahman nirgunam, devoid of all qualities, niskriyam, devoid of all the action, nityam, eternal, devoid of all mortality, nidvandvam, devoid of all the dualities, niramayam, healthy, devoid of all the diseases, physical, mental, adi, vyadi, upadhi, shuddham, ever pure, buddham, ever conscious, muktam, ever free. That Brahma I am, iti dhārayet. So this is how may you contemplate upon yourself. May you see yourself in this way. Contemplation is, may you see yourself that way. That this is what I am. Nanyatha, anything else that I think about myself comes from the lumping together. I think that I am possessed of guna, kriya, etc., birth, death, mortality. All of that belongs to the upadhi. Those conclusions about myself are on account of not being able to distinguish the self from the non-self. That is the reason why I think the way I think about myself. That is the reason. What's the reason? That we are lumping together the actor and the costume, the self and the upadhi in the costume. So recognize that all gunas, all kriya, all anityata, all dvandva, all disease, everything belongs to the costume, to the upadhi. And whereas all these things are there in the upadhi, that I am totally devoid of that. Upadhi doesn't in any way affect me. In spite of all the disease in the mind and the body, I am niramaya. In all the dualities and divisions, I am non-dual, undivided. In spite of all the kriyas and activities, I am nishkriya. So we have to see where the kriya is and recognize that in spite of those kriyas, I am nishkriya. In spite of gunas existing where they do, I am nirguna. I am nishkriya. So not in absence of kriya, even when kriya is there, I am nishkriya. Even when the attendants are all sakriya active, the Raja is nishkriya. Even when the iron filings are turning around, the magnet is just present, motionless. So we have to assign where the kriya. So kriya is there someplace. Otherwise this question would not arise. Because there is kriya someplace, guna someplace, birth someplace, dvaita someplace, etc. They are not where I think they are. They are only in the costume, in the upadhi, in the body, mind, sense complex. Not in I who is the witness, illuminator. Iti janiyat nanyatha. So this discussion is now concluded, Upasamharati. Tikakara makes a note here. Na eteshu shlokeshu punaraktam doshavaham. Somebody may feel that hey, you are saying the same thing in different words, sometimes same words, same thing in different words. Sometimes words are repeated, sometimes the meaning is repeated. It's called punarukti. Punarukti or tautology is called in English. It's called a dosha. It's considered to be a defect in speech. You keep saying same because you have nothing else to say sometimes, so your mind is stuck with something. And then it looks like the teacher also is saying the same thing, repeating the same thing. So that is so, na doshavaham, that does not bring any dosha or any defect or blemish to the statement of the teacher. Yataha pratipadyavastuna durvodhatvat. Therefore in Shastra is called abhyasa. Abhyasa is restating the same thing either in the same way or in a different way, creating impact. Like the mother, this fellow is first time traveling in the train. Take care. See, be aware of the strangers. Don't eat anything that comes in the train. The millions are, this she'll keep on saying. Yeah, I heard. She keeps on. This is abhyasa, to imprint on the mind. Saying once may not create that imprint. Therefore saying a number of times creates an imprint. Then the fellow remembers, my mother said, don't eat this. Otherwise he is attracted. When chanachor gram comes in the train, don't eat those things. Similarly also, because samskaras with dvaita are so strong, that I am a limited, small little being is so small, strong. Therefore, the mother Shruti has to say this again and again, you are Brahman, you are limitless, you are consciousness, you are boundless. Therefore, yataha pratipadyavastuna durbodhatvat pratipadyavastu. That vastu, the truth which is expounded here, durbodha is very difficult to understand because of my strong conclusions. Even otherwise, even very complicated theories of physics may not be that difficult because if my mind is open, it may require a sharp mind. But here is so difficult because there are all the deep-rooted conclusions. And every day you are Brahman, you keep saying morning, evening, and once that you say you are a thief, so that, touches him. Therefore, it is necessary to say it again and again and again. Therefore, Pratipadyavastana Durbodatvat Mumukshu Upakaraya. That Mumukshu is, makes note of this, and this is imprinted on Mumukshu, not glossing over. Otherwise you say that and gloss over. It's not glossing over. Mumukshunam, Mumukshu Upakaraya. For the well-being of the Mumukshu, Karmika Acharya. Why should Acharya otherwise keep saying this again and again? One chapter, other chapter, third chapter, in same chapter also. PoetrySection. Sometimes similar statement of Shastra. So Shastra also repeats itself in one scripture and another. Kvachit phalakathanena, sometimes by showing what the reward is. Same thing stated. Kvachit vidvat anubhav abhinayana, sometimes by describing the experience of the wise. Punah pratipadayati, expounds it again. Bhuyo api patyam vaktavyam iti jnayat, because it says that patyam, what is conducive to health, must be said again and again. What is good for you should be said again and again. So the footnote says, Paundarutyam na doshotra shabdena arthena va bhavet abhyasena gariyastvam arthasya pratipadyate manasollasa. Atra paundarutyam na dosha. In case of this teaching or Shastra, Paundarakti, the apparent repetition is not a dosha, not a defect. Shabdena, arthena vabhavet, sometimes the same words are repeated, sometimes same meaning is repeated in different words. That's called abhyasa, not punarukti. Punarukti is one thing where it's said needlessly. Abhyasa is said with a purpose. Abhyasena arthasya gariyastvam pratipadyate. Here is something very important, something very profound. So by saying maybe that does not register. Say it again and again so that it may register our mind to recognize the profundity of what is said here. Uktam prakaranaartham pratipatti saukaryartham sankshipta kathayati. The artha, now the whole prakaranaartham, the gist of the entire chapter. Pratipatti saukaryartham is said in so many verses, 81 verses. Pratipatti saukaryartham. Saukarya, sukrasya bhava, something easy to grasp. So for easy pratipatti saukarya, for easy understanding. So this is the style. You say something elaborately and then say the same thing, briefly, and then say something briefly and elaborate that. So that is the paddhati. Sankshipya kathayati. And therefore, in Sankshepa, in brief, the teacher says the same thing for pratipatti, for getting a further clarity. So next verse is, there the meter is different. Bandham moksham cha sarvam yata idamubhayam heyamekam dvayancha. Jneyam jneyabhyatitam paramam adhigatam tattvamekam vishuddham. Vijñāye tad yathavat shruti munigaditam shokamohavatitaha. सर्वज्ञस्तवकृत् स्यात् भवभयरहितो ब्राह्मणो वाप्तकृत्यः. The third line says, Vijñāya yathavat. Yathavat vijñāya. Yathavat, vijñāya, knowing or understanding as these things are. What is it? Bandham, what is bondage? Moksham, the liberation, sarvam. Yataha idam ubhayam, that from which the bondage and liberation arise. Heyam, of that, what is to be discarded, what is to be retained. Ekam dvayam cha. And therefore one and many, there is a cause and effect. Gneyam, that which is to be known, dushyam. Gneyabhyatitam, that which transcends the gneyam or the dushyam. Paramam, limitless. Adhigatam, so param, that which is known as param adhigatam. Tattvam ekam vishuddham, that ekam vishuddham tattvam. Vijñāya yathavat, knowing that tattva as it is, as it should be. How do you know that? Shruti munigaditam, that which is expounded by or is explained by, taught by Shruti, and Muni means the teacher. Shoka moho atitaha, by that one transcends the shoka and moha, grief and delusion. And that's the negative part. Sarvajña, sarvakrut syat. One becomes omniscient, one becomes sarvakrut, one has done everything. Therefore I get complete fulfillment. Bhavabhayarahita, free from the fear of birth and death. Brahmana, because Brahmana, Brahmavit in a primary sense. Avapta krutya, kruta krutya, one who is totally fulfilled. So Tika explains, Bandham moksham cha sarvam yathavat vijñāya. So yathavat vijñāya comes from the third line. Bandham moksham cha sarvam yathavat vijñāya. All of this bondage, the liberation, all of this should be known as it is. Then what happens? By knowing this, all of this as it is, bhavabhayarahita syāti tanvaya. So that comes the fourth element, bhavabhayarahita. One becomes rahita, free from the fear of samsara, one becomes free from all fear. The samsara causes fear. Because I do not control what the next moment will bring. I do not even know how my mind will be next moment. How my mind will react next moment. Therefore, not only the other things can be the cause of bhaya. My own mind can be cause of fear for me because I don't know how the thing will react. So therefore this bhava, this samsara, which is bhava, life of becoming, is full of uncertainties and full of past unpleasant experiences. There is always a fear, there is always apprehension in my mind as to how things will be. Bhavabhayarahita, when totally resolved, everything is in order. Whatever happens, what happened is happening, what happened is all in order. Because nothing doesn't touch me. As long as I thought that what happens there affects me, so long there is always how I will be affected. But when I say Gnya, Gne, Abhyatitam, I transcend everything. I am meaning that I cannot be touched. I am untainted by anything that is happening. And therefore there is no fear. So what is all to be known? Bandha, Pramatrutva, Kartrutvadi, Pratibhasa Lakshana Bandha. Pratibhasa Lakshana Bandha. The bondage which is the nature of Pratibha's appearance, not reality. With Bandha, Pramatrutva, Kartrutvadi, that Pramatrutva, knowerness, Kartrutva, the doerness, this is the appearance. Meaning in myself or Atma, that I think that I am a knower, that I think that I am a karta, doer, these are appearance. Without being knower, I appear as a knower. Without being doer, I appear as doer. Moksha, Brahmaswarupa avasthanam, abidance in my own nature as Brahman. Sarvam. So, Sarvam Yathav Vijnana Nishesham. So, one must know all of this. Nishesham meaning without leaving any Shesha. All of these one must know Yathavat as it is. We will explain all throughout this chapter. Nishesham Purukta Prakaram. The Prakara is stated here. What is Moksha, Bandha, etc. And that one should know as it is. Then, verse idam ubhayam, heyamekam dvayam cha. Idam ubhayam, both of these, what both? Bandham moksham cha. Both bandha and moksha must be known in its true sense. And also, ubhayam yataha idam ubhayam, from where these two come? What is it? Bandham moksham cha. So bandha moksha are mentioned, therefore again, where does this pair or both moksha and bandha come? Yataha is fifth case. Yataha hetoho, from which cause? What is it? Ajnanat. That bondage is, the source of bondage is ignorance, and moksha also the same degree of reality as bondage. Te api vijñāyati sambandha, that also. So bondage will be known as just only a product of ignorance, understand that. And moksha is also the elimination of the notion of bondage. That bondage is merely a notion and liberation is not real liberation. Liberation is the elimination of the notion of bondage. So vijñāya. Ekam dvayam cha vijñāya, ekam anuvrittam, dvayam vyavrittam. It's interesting. Ekam dvayam. In this, cause and effect, the clay which is material cause ekam and pots and pans are dvayam vyavrittam. So anvaya, there is an anvaya or inherence of the clay in all the pots and pans, but vyavartanam, but then negation of the pots and pans in clay. So that we recognize that which inheres is cause and that which can be excluded is effect. Ekam anuvrittam karanam. Anuvrittam, that which inheres. Dvayam vyavrittam karyam. So that which inheres, which always accompanies, vyavritta, that does not accompany. So that also is to be known as it is. Then next line, gneyam, vishayabhutam, whatever is gneyam, sarvam heyam, bhadyam vijñāyityartha, all of this is heyam. So what is called the ekam, the cause, effect, gneyam, the object, all of this is bhādyam, all of this must be recognized as mithya. This is how you should know that all of this, bandha, moksha, all of this is mithya. Meaning at the level of vyavahara, all of these notions or conclusions are there. Jnayabhyatitam. Gniyat abhyatitam drusyat samyak prasakritam. So that which transcends the gnayam. Gnayam means object of knowledge. Adrusyam. So drusyat samyak prasakritam. Atma tattva is that which is totally different from the drusya. And so, therefore, yat sarva vishayatitam. So that which vishayatitam or gnayatitam. So Vishaya means object, that which is devoid of the idea of objectivity, which cannot be objectified. Paramam niratishayam, unsurpassable, limitless, Vishuddham, ever pure, Ekam, one non-dual, Brahma, Yad Vedanteshu Adhigatam, that which is Adhigatam known in the Vedantas, in the Upanishads. Tattvam, which is the Paramartham, the absolute reality. Tadapi Yathavad Vijnaya, meaning that the Mithya has to be known as Mithya and Heyam, something to be given up, negated, and then Satyam also Gnayabhyatitam Paramam Tattvam Ekam Vishuddham Vijnaya. So when that all these negatable things are negated and what remains as your own self, knowing that Yathavi Atmatven Upadaya. When is Nityam Shuddham Buddham Brahma known rightly? Atmatvena Ishadarshanam Swatma Rupataha Atmatvena Upadaya. So this is Heyam and Upadayam. Well, Mithya is Bandha, Moksha, Eka, Dvaya, cause, effect, is all in the level of Mithya. Heyam means therefore then you let it go. Don't give reality. Then Upadayam, what is left is Adhishthanam, that is you. Yathavad Vijnaya Upadaya. Therefore, you hold on to that, acquire that, identify with that. Kim Lakshanam Pratvam. What's the nature of the truth? Shruti Muni Gaditam. Shruti Vakyena Munina Guruna Upadishtam. Gaditam, which is stated. Upadishtam, which is told, instructed, taught. Shruti Vakyena Munina. So Munina means Guruna, the Guru teaches based on Shruti Vakya. So Shrutya Acharya Uktam. एवं आत्म अनात्म तत्व ज्ञात्वा both आत्म अनात्म तत्व ज्ञात्वा, knowing anatma tattva and atma tattva also. Anatma apohena. So knowing anatma is anatma and giving up identification with that. Atma tattva nishtaha, that's how one becomes abiding in one's own nature. Atma tattva nishtaha. Shoka moho atitaha syat. One becomes free from shoka and moha, grief and delusion. Tatra ko moha kashoka egatvam anupashyataha yasmin savrani bhutani atma evabhut vijanataha tatra ko moha kashoka egatvam anupashyataha. Footnote says, where does it come from? Which verse? Oh, you don't have that footnote. Seventh mantra, okay. Tatra komaha kashoka ekatvam anupashyataha. Ekatvam anupashyataha. So, anupashyata, ekatvam, the dvaita is there. And then one sees also the ekatvam in spite of duality. Although anu also means in keeping with the teaching, but also that this duality does not negate the non-duality. The perception of duality does not negate the perception of non-duality. It is non-duality in spite of duality. Anupashyatah. Ko moha kashoga. What moha, what identification can be there? What grief can be there? What sense of limitation can be there? Sarvajnah, sarvamita brahma, tajjanan sarvajna syad. So Brahmajna becomes Sarvajna. Tasmat tasarvam abhavat, because Brahman is everything. The truth is everything, the self of all, informing everything, pervading everything, sustaining everything. Therefore, knowing Brahman is as good as knowing everything. Knowing the clay is as good as knowing all the pots and pans. So in that sense, the wise person is called omniscient. Not that he knows everything in detail, but he knows the truth of everything. Like you see, know that this is clay. That's the essence of this pot. Brahman is the essence of everything, which is myself. Self-effulgent, therefore I know. Saram swatmani ekam karoti sarvakrit syat. And so he is omniscient, as well as one who has done everything. Sarvakrit. So sarvam kritam yena sa sarvakrit. Meaning that he has well done whatever needs to be done. The krutakritya. Sarvakrit means krutakritya. Or sarvakrit, well the tika ka sarvam swatmani ekam karoti iti sarvakrit. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaevabhut vijanatah. Seeing all the beings as nothing but one's own self. Therefore, everything is now reduced to oneself. That's how Sarvakrit is explained. And Sarvakrit means one who has done everything. Sarvajnah, one who knows everything. Sarvakrit, one who has done everything. Tathacha mukti vishaya shrutihi aham vishvam bhuvanam abhyabhavam. From the Taittiriya Upanishad. Vishvam bhuvanam abhyabhavam. So, dairyam ganartham abhyabhavam, not abhyabhavam. What is abhyabhavam? Abhyabhavam, amibhutavan. Meaning that, so Vishwam bhuvanam, the entire universe also, I have abhyabhavam, I have amibhutavan, I have overcome that. So, thus, I have overcome, or I have transcended, or I am ruling the whole universe. The whole universe is under my control, says, in that sense. Abhibhutam, parabhutam, defeated. I have conquered the entire universe, he says, So, this is how we Mukta Vishaya Shruti. One who says, I have conquered the entire universe. Conquering is not, conquer means now I am the Sarvar, so Swarat, I am the sovereign of the entire universe, I am totally free. So nothing in the universe creates in me a sense of bondage, limitedness, helplessness, etc. Whatever it is fine with me. I am not overwhelmed by anything. Here we get overwhelmed by things, where somebody is better than us, somebody is more accomplished, etc. We get overwhelmed by something that we think is superior to us. The inferior gets overwhelmed by something that is thought to be superior. But I am supreme. I am not supreme when I measure myself by the upadhi. When I see myself as the adhisthana, as consciousness that I am supreme, because everything superimposed upon me, I am the adhisthana. Adhisthana always overpowers the adhyaropa. In that, because they are totally dependent, I am independent in that sense. So, Atmasat Krutavan Asmityartha, because I am the self of all, and therefore everything depends upon me, superimposed upon me. Therefore, I have conquered everything. In that sense. Meaning that the wise person gets the same sense as a sovereign would get. Not that he has to conquer anything. If you conquered everything, then how would you feel? You will totally free and freedom from fear. So that's what a person feels. There's a bhava bhaya rahita, no fear now of the world. Na vibheti kutaschaneti, anandam brahmano vidvan, na vibheti kutaschaneti, knowing anand, Brahman is ananda, or ananda that is Brahman, one becomes free from all the fear. So when you have now conquered the entire universe, sovereign doesn't have fear. So in the local terms also, the term, worldly terms also, the king has no fear of the subjects. The master has no fear of the servants. Sovereign has no fear from anybody. So he is like the sovereign, therefore I become free from all the fear. Na bibheti kutasya, for no cause is there fear. सर्वज्ञ सर्वकृत्यात् भवभयरहितो ब्राह्मण अवाप्त कृत्य है. ब्राह्मण मुख्यावृत्त्या ब्राह्मण शब्दाभिधेय. Brahmana means one who is born in the Brahmana jati, as a Brahmana caste. But Brahmajanadi Brahmana. So mukhyavatya. In the primary sense, he becomes a Brahmana. In primary sense, he becomes liberated. In primary sense, he becomes a sannyasi, So, not by appearance, but then not by appearance, he becomes Brahman in primary sense. Not by birth, not by appearance, not by action. Mukhya vritya Brahmana Shabda Videha. What the word Brahmana is meant to convey is what he has become. Amaunam cha maunam cha nirvidyatha Brahmana. Tasmad Brahmana Pandityam Nirvidya Balyana Tishthased. Balyam cha Pandityam Nirvidyatha Munihi. Amaunam cha nirvidyatha Brahmana. Shravanam Manam Nidhyasam, that's how Upanishad says, becomes Brahmanistha. Etad aksharam garge viditva asman lokat parisa Brahmana. Another explanation. The word Brahmana is used elsewhere also in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. He garge, the one who departs from this world, knowing this aksharam, immutable self, he is a Brahmana. So Brahmana is explained as Brahmavit, and Brahmana who departs from this world knowing the self, same thing is Brahmana. It is just Shrute. So Brahmana, avapta krutya, avapta prapta krutya kriya phala. So krutya is what is done, or the result of what is done here. Avapta krutya, avapta kriya phala. One who has attained all the rewards of all the actions. So you perform an action, you get the reward in terms of satisfaction, happiness. So one who enjoys the reward of all the actions simultaneously. How? So snute sarvan kaman sa brahmana vipaschita iti. Taitirumaya says, Brahmana vipaschita. He becomes Brahman, this is omniscient consciousness. Sarvan kaman sa snute. He, Ashnute, experiences kaman, all the objects of pleasure simultaneously. Imagine that all the desires are fulfilled in one stroke. All the pleasurable objects are experienced in one stroke, in one moment. Meaning, this is a way of explaining limitless ananda. It cannot be an experience. So he experiences all the pleasures simultaneously. One can never experience limitless, understand. Whatever you experience, as long as you remain an experiencer, and what you experience remains different from you, there cannot be limitlessness. So no experience in a primary sense can be limitless, because as long as there is a sense of experiencer, that limitation remains. So this becoming Brahmana as Brahman, Vipaschita as omniscient, enlightened Brahman, he experiences, enjoys, meaning becomes that very ananda, which is a result of the enjoyment of the pleasurable objects. So avapta krutya or kruta krutya, same thing. One who is kruta krutya has done what is to be done, or experience everything that is the result of any action, all actions. So this is a summary of the theme of the entire chapter. Is explained in one verse here. Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.